Okay, with that, I will call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. All members are appearing remotely via Zoom, and the meeting is being recorded. As a preliminary matter, if anything prevents us from completing the meeting, anything we haven't gotten to will be continued to December 15th administratively. So first up, is there anyone who would like to speak to anything that is not on the agenda? Items on the agenda will have an opportunity for public comment, but is there anything that's not on the agenda? Harry.
Yeah, I want the planning board to take up 8.332 on the design requirements on a zoning district. The wording in that, the way I look at it is it should be straightened out, because the way you read it, the way I look at it, the buildings have to be in harmony with the neighborhood, and then it says "and city." So it's either neighborhood's got to be taken out of that statement, or the city has to be taken out, one or the other, because it can't be neighborhood and city. If you go back to our Loudville application, Chris brought up a good point about Clark Street, saying we have Sunrise Manor around here, we have single family homes, we have Victorian, we have the church. There's even a farm down there on Clark Street. And what's even more crazy is Maple Street, where you have you got a school, a bar, a restaurant, condos, single family homes, triple deckers, and Victorias. So when you say city, what you're doing is you're taking a whole city and trying to make it into a neighborhood. All neighborhoods are different. And I think that should be looked at. So either you should, in my estimation, you got to take neighborhood out of that, or you got to take the city out of that. One or the other. It can't be both.
I would tend to agree with Harry. That's a really good point.
All right. So because we're in public speak, we won't discuss this, but maybe we can have the planning department take a look at that and talk to Harry and put it on the agenda for us to talk about at a future meeting. Does that make sense, Harry?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good point. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Harry. That's great.
Anybody else public comment? Again, you can either raise your virtual hand on Zoom or turn your video on and raise your actual hand, or *6, I think, on a cell phone, or just unmute and ask to address the board about anything that is not on the agenda. All right. Seeing nothing, we will move on. Planning board minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look at these. We've got 4 sets of minutes. The first one is October 6th, which it appeared the public hearings description, it described the American Dream Realty, which is the Duncan project that's on tonight, but then all of the comments and recitations were related to the Loudville project. I didn't have a chance to go look at the agenda, so I'm not sure if the caption is wrong, Jeff, or if the content is, but maybe we can set that aside and deal with that on the 15th, just to make sure we know what's up.
Well, I did, because you previewed that with me. I was able to check the agenda was for the Stepler project. It was the sole item on the agenda for October 6th. So I think. So
just the description at the top needs to be switched to describe the Loudville Road project as opposed to the Duncan one.
Correct.
Okay. I didn't see any other issues other than that, but any other planning board members have any?
Can we approve it with the condition that not a condition, approve it with the change?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else from planning board members though? On the October 6th? Okay.
I motion to approve the minutes from October 6th, 2020.
Second.
All right. Approving October 6th, 2020 minutes with the changes. Brenda.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, moving right along. We've got the October 20th minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from October 20th.
I've not had an opportunity to review these, so I don't know. I can't really second because I've not looked at them.
I can second.
All right. So to approve the October 20th minutes, Brenda.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Chris.
I'm going to abstain because I have not read them. Sorry.
Thank you. James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Moving right along, November 10th, 2020 minutes.
Motion to approve the November 10th minutes.
I can second.
All right, approving November 10th minutes. Brenda,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
and I am an aye. And finally, November 17th minutes.
Motion to approve the November 17th minutes.
Sorry. I'll second that.
All right, approving November 17th. Brenda,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
and I am also an aye.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes.
I think the minutes have been very well done. I like the bullet point way of calling things out, and I just want to give some appreciation to the planning department for their work on that.
And I want to kick it right over to Zoe Ingram, who's out of the mayor's office as the clerk, has been doing them all, and she's
Yeah,
been doing
I'm
a great
here.
job.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Done,
Zoe.
Zoe.
It's been great.
Great work,
Well done.
Zoe.
She's our silent partner here.
No, she's great. Thank you.
All right, excellent. So moving right along, public hearing. We have the continued public hearing for American Dream Realty seeking a special permit and stormwater management permit for the construction of a drive-through restaurant located at 5 and 9 East Street. And I understand there's been a request for a continuance. Is there someone here for the applicant that would like to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. Hope you're well this evening.
Thanks, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We are in the process, there's a couple things I just wanted to update you. We have received a traffic report, but we wanted to make sure that there was ample time for the peer reviewer to review it. We received it as late as this afternoon. We'll be reviewing it internally and then providing that likely tomorrow to the peer reviewer. I believe the peer review fee has been paid. And then with regard to the architecturals, I believe we did forward those over to Mr. Bagg. I just wanted to make sure I didn't know if the board would be willing to take just a quick look to see if there's any other information, not to say that you need to deliberate on them or anything, but just if there's a possibility I could share those with you real quick and see if you felt there was any other views or anything that was needed. We want to just make sure you have enough information to assess as you go forward.
Yeah, I think we can take a look at that. Jeff, does that make sense?
Yeah, the only caveat I will explain is that on the agenda that was posted, I did make a note that the applicant requested a continuation to December 15th. You know, there's no exact protocol for all of this, so I try to do my best to let people know, you know, that they may not need to tune in if there's a kind of a known request for continuation with the purpose. So I don't know. That's my only.
Yeah. So I think what we can do, Rob, is we can take a look at it and see if anything jumps out to us, but it won't be a clean slate just because I mean, often as you've seen, right, somebody from the public may point something out that's a good point.
Yeah. Not so much for content, but more for if there's an additional, view that's not, illustrated. Obviously, I'm sure this would be a separate discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, if I could share the screen here. Let me just see this here. Okay. Can everybody see something that looks like a Dunkin' Donuts?
Yep.
Okay. So we have the elevations, which I believe you've already previously seen. Maybe there's a little bit more detail, but so they have the elevations, the footprint of the Dunkin' with some detail, cupola, different information. So obviously you'll go through that when you actually do the review. So we have those views. I believe Mr. Cockshaw had requested a view from the corner, illustrating how the wall would look, the guardrail, and then the building. So this is kind of as you present, as you would be coming from 5 onto East Street. Okay, that's that view. I did ask them to do another view, and just in addition, because they had the model. So this would be kind of from the almost over where the pump station is. There is vegetation here that's not shown. That a lot of some of that will remain. But this, if there was no vegetation, this is the general idea of what this would look like from this vantage point to kind of from the side rear, we'll call it. And that's what's been presented. There is a model. I'm not sure if there's other specific viewpoints that we should try to ask for. I don't know how complicated it is, but I believe since the model's built, it wouldn't be crazy or prohibitive to provide, any other information. But generally, I think this covers it. I just wanted to make sure.
So planning board members, any other angles or views that you would be interested in seeing without getting into the content of what we're actually looking at? James?
Okay. No. You just took the wind right out of my sails, Jesse, and rightfully so.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I really don't want to get into the merits.
Yeah, I'll
of
wait
it.
till next meeting.
Yeah, okay. Chris?
What I will want to ask next week or next time we meet on this is, are those really the trees that are going to be behind that building, that Dunkin' Donuts that are up against that? You don't have to answer now because we're not deliberating. But I will also want to know heights of the wall that are shown in your views, specifically like on the third picture. It appears that the wall is, it's kind of cut off on the bottom and the right side, so it's hard to know exactly how tall that wall is. But
sure.
So I'll want to know heights and just when we talk through it, so I know if that is actually what it will look like with the foliage in the back distance and the wall.
Right. So I think I would suggest, so you're not suggesting it, but I would suggest that we see what we can do to superimpose the existing vegetation behind, because I believe this is quote unquote, dummy or, stock vegetation
right.
They've placed. So,
and it should match what your planting plan is and your fence plan is.
Yeah, not so much that, but more so the the vegetation behind. There's ways to do photo simulation that we can.
Yeah. Okay.
I may be mixing projects, but I think that Chris had asked for more specific information on signage last time. Is the signage being shown here just graphics, or is it specific to the project? Is that the signage?
This is what is being currently proposed, but I don't know that that's not flexible. I think there's different sign packages that are available to the franchisee. I believe Manny Sargent. I know that you don't want to get into the discussion. Probably better. We'll
let's save signage because I think that's
if we're going to need if we should ask for additional signage.
Yeah, so I think what we probably want to see is what the proposed signage is, and then if there is some flexibility on that, maybe what other options there are. I mean, if it's an infinite number of options, then that's silly. But if there's certain things that are available, then that might be helpful for us to determine at the next hearing.
Great, we'll take note of that. We'll have this some sign package information, and be able to discuss what potential options there would be associated with that.
Great. Any other comments from planning board members just about what we're looking at and if there's missing information here from what we're looking for? Okay, there are a few members of the public. Anybody from the public, without getting into the substance of this, if there's stuff from the virtual view that you think would be helpful for us to see, if you want to either raise your hand virtually on Zoom or turn on your video or unmute yourself and ask to address, just on the issue of the sufficiency of the virtual pictures we're looking at. Okay, and so as for the actual continuance, I think we talked about it earlier on this project. We're always cognizant of continuances for sort of strategic reasons to try to discourage public participation. We gave you a pretty big laundry list of things to deal with at the last hearing, and I think it's reasonable that it's taken this long, and we also obviously want the peer review to take place, so I don't think that's what's happening here. I'm glad that the planning department was able to get the word out and we don't have 50 people here showing up for something that they don't need to be at. So I personally don't have a problem with the request to continuance, but obviously that's subject to a vote from all the planning board members. But if anybody feels differently, let me know. Okay, planning department, Jeff, you feel like this gives us at least the material we need for the 15th to have a more in-depth discussion?
Yeah, and I've been in touch with RLA Associates about the traffic information. So, as soon as that can get transmitted over, it's going to go to the peer reviewer. They've previously asked for 5 to 7 days. So, the request to go to December 15th, that seems feasible knowing that they have the information. So that's good. By email, I did talk to the board, about scheduling for scheduling purposes. We talked about December 15th. It's kind of a packed evening. So my recommendation would be to set this continuation at 7. But I think for Rob and Manny and the applicant, just know that we may not be able to start right at 7, but that kind of be the time to jump on. We have a couple other things that will happen before that.
Good point.
Can I also request that any documentation that we're going to review has to be in by the 11th? Because when stuff comes in on Mondays and Tuesdays, I don't have time to review it. I don't.
Yeah, Rob, can you do that? I mean, I know it can be hard when we're doing stuff on a deadline, but it really does make it hard when we get stuff either at the meeting or that afternoon.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, like I said, we have the traffic study in hand. I don't know how long the modeling stuff, but it's already developed, so I can't imagine. So I would expect to be able to give you, I'm hoping to give you guys a package of the additional information by probably Thursday at the latest. This week, Thursday. So I think we'll be in very good shape.
Great.
And I do appreciate that, and we'll look to endeavor to do that in the future as well.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate that.
I motion to continue to December 15th at 7 o'clock, the Duncan Project for American Dream Realty at 5 and 9 East Street.
Second.
All right, voting to continue to December 15th. Brenda.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you on the 15th.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. We have a continued hearing on One Industrial Lofts LLC seeking approval of a project under MGL Chapter 121A for property located at 1 Ferry Street. And we do have a draft planning board report on this. I assume Jeff, has Mr. Michon and his team seen this draft, or has it not made it out to them yet?
It was sent over this afternoon, so It hasn't been a lot of time, but they did get it. I think.
Mike, have you had a chance to look at it?
I have that.
Okay. Well, we're going to go through it right now. I just want to say I thought it was actually really well done for what was basically a free-form discussion at that last hearing. I thought it captured what we addressed pretty thoroughly, which was pretty nice. But I guess, I mean, Jeff, should we go through everything in here? Should I just do a 6-page reading?
I mean, that has become our practice, and it makes me feel better knowing that even though I drafted it, the board has reviewed it and has had the opportunity to see it in a meeting. So it seems very laborious, but it works pretty well if you're willing to try it.
It's always good for me to work on my public reading skills. So I will go through this. I'm going to stop after every paragraph and give people a chance, planning board members or the applicant at this point. And then when we're done with the whole thing, if there's public comment on it, I'll let people come back to whatever we're dealing with. But so in addition to planning board members, Mike, if you feel like there's anything that's sort of misstated or not covering what you sort of think it should, feel free to speak up when I get to the next paragraph. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the form of this is our report to the city council, which is what we have to do under the statute now. It begins on Wednesday, November 4th, 2020. An initial joint public hearing was held by the city council and planning board, during which the applicant presented a comprehensive summary of the project, legally advertised on both October 20th, 2020 and October 27th, 2020 as follows. One Industrial Lofts LLC seeking approval of a project under MGL Chapter 121A to authorize the negotiation of an alternative tax payment for the project. The project anticipates having 156 housing units, which includes 97 rental units and 59 condominiums. It also includes the demolition, restoration, and construction of select buildings and site improvements to allow for a variety of uses, including business, commercial, and residential on 6.1 acres. Property is located at 1 Ferry Street, map 135, parcels 251, 2, 250, and 252. I had a comment there. Are those parcels correct, Jeff? It just seems like there's one that's drastically out of order, but I just want to check that.
I will double check the parcels, yeah.
Okay. The project is more specifically defined in the materials transmitted to the Planning Board and City Council by Mayor Nicole LaChapelle on October 19th, 2020, found here with a hyperlink. On Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, the Easthampton Planning Board met at a posted public meeting to review and discuss the proposed 121A agreement proposed by I think we need to strike that by, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah.
For 1 Ferry Street. The applicant was represented by Mike
Jesse?
Michon. Yes.
The part where it says here, link, is that viable in a document like this to link to something else like that? I mean, is that useful to someone that's, printing it? I'm not quite sure.
Well, I guess this is presented, that's a good question. This is
Did you
presented.
spell out the URL?
I think so too, because when I click on the link, it says article not found. So it doesn't work on mine.
So Jeff, maybe we can make that an exhibit.
Yeah.
And we could even hyperlink it to the exhibit to the extent people are looking at it in a digital document. But that way too, if this is available in a hard copy somewhere, people can see what that is.
Yeah, I think yeah, we can do it that way. I think that's totally fine.
Okay.
And just procedurally, Jesse, I think anyone should just jump in if they see anything.
Yeah, I think that's fine. The applicant was represented by Mike Michon, Jay Mantaleski, and Jeff Daly. Findings. The Planning Board hereby makes the following findings pursuant to MGL 121A, Section 6, and based on the presentation during the joint public hearing of November 4th, 2020, the information submitted with the Mayor's transmittal dated October 19th, 2020, and the deliberation on November 17th, 2020. 1. The proposed project is qualified under the statutory definition of blighted, open, decadent, or substandard area established in Section 1 of MGL Chapter 121A. The Planning Board finds that the property qualifies under all three statutory definitions for blighted, open, decadent, and substandard, but particularly as decadent, defined as follows. Decadent area, an area which is detrimental to safety, health, morals, welfare, or sound growth of a community because of the existence of buildings which are out of repair, physically deteriorated, unfit for human habitation, or obsolete, or in need of major maintenance or repair, or because much of the real estate in recent years has been sold or taken for non-payment of taxes or upon foreclosure of mortgages, or because buildings have been torn down and not replaced, and in which, under existing conditions, it is improbable that the buildings will be replaced, or because of a substantial change in business or economic conditions, or because of inadequate light, air, or open space, or because of excessive land coverage, or because of diversity of ownership, irregular lot sizes, or obsolete street patterns make it improbable that the area will be redeveloped by the ordinary operations of private enterprise, or by reason of any combination of the foregoing conditions. Specifically, the board finds that the property is decadent based upon its continuous decline since the 1990s and identification by Easthampton public safety officials as a significant public safety concern. In addition, the property is a prominent, highly visible landmark within the Mill District and greater Easthampton community. Unfortunately, the property presents as an abandoned mill complex with windowless building shells, crumbling brick facades, graffiti-covered buildings, and plywood fences, all of which is easily observed from Ferry Street, Pleasant Street, and the popular Manhan Rail Trail. The board referenced the fire department letter dated July 31st, 2018, building department letter dated August 2nd, 2018, and photographs, see page 543 to 561 of exhibits here. And we'll have to address those exhibits there too, I guess, Jeff. In which the former fire chief describes the property as derelict and a threat as follows. Quote, this property has been a public safety concern for many years. There have been many fires in the various buildings over the years that have placed a tremendous strain on public safety resources throughout the area. The buildings formerly known as 1 and 15 pose a significant risk not only to my firefighters, but to the public as well. From the street, both buildings show major structural damage that could lead to a catastrophic failure if they were left standing. Based on the location of these buildings, I feel that if they are to collapse, there is a threat to the public using the sidewalk and road on Ferry Street, end quote. The Planning Board also finds that, as described by the applicant during the November 17th, 2020 meeting, Building 1 was demolished due to its dangerous condition, which presented a hazard to engineers and architects conducting due diligence on the redevelopment potential of the property. The board acknowledged that the applicant's statement that the need to demolish Building 1 for safety reasons ultimately prevented the granting of historical tax credits from the state, necessitating the additional tax reduction through the 121A request. The planning board finds that a no-build scenario as outlined in the submitted environmental notification form, see page 499 here, would prevent the redevelopment and result in continued vacancy of the site and building, no improvements to water quality, no improvements in existing building conditions, unrealized tax revenue, unrealized opportunities for the owners and residents of the subject and surrounding communities, no new housing units, and no workforce housing units. 2, the project is not in contravention of any zoning, subdivision, health, or building ordinance or bylaw or rules and regulations of the city or town.
Jesse, can I stop for a second?
Yep.
The second bullet, no improvements to water quality. Can we also say stormwater quality, or no improvements to water and stormwater quality? Because I feel like the existing structures probably, have a detrimental effect to stormwater quality, and this new design will improve that.
I think that's a good point. Anything else on that, Chris? Or
Nope.
Is that enough? Okay.
That's good.
The planning board finds that the project complies with all zoning requirements, ordinances, and regulations of the city of Easthampton. Specifically, the board referenced its review and granting of a special permit decision for the project filed with the city clerk on January 8th, 2019. See pages 660 to 668 here. Under section, yeah. Someone say something? I was just going to say, I think referenced its review. I don't think there's an apostrophe in its, but under section 9.0, which governs mixed-use development in the Mill District. The decision describes the site as having, quote, been in disrepair for several decades, and the project consists of the partial demolition and reconstruction of a number of buildings, including the 2 larger sections with one area of development on the west side of the canal and the other occurring on the east side of the canal, end quote, and allows for flexibility to develop between 75 to approximately 150 units. The planning board finds that the project is anticipated to comply with all other health and safety codes and requirements given the new construction and renovations. The planning board finds also that the approval of a zoning amendment by City Council on June 5th, 2019 to eliminate setback and lot area requirements for properties in the Mill Industrial District further demonstrates compliance with regulations necessary for the full potential of the redevelopment to occur and to de-risk the property and ensure it would allow for additional private financial investment. The board observes the goal of the Mill Industrial Zoning District is to generate pride and confidence in the historic Mill District, restore and revitalize the historic mill buildings in Easthampton, maintain a consistently high level of design quality, provide for a compatible mix of uses within the old mills, improve the pedestrian environment in the Mill District, establish connections between the mill buildings and the abutting mill ponds, allow diversification of existing businesses, and provide incentives for new businesses. 3, the project does not conflict with the city's master plan, or if there is no master plan, with the local or regional plan as appropriate. The planning board finds that the project does not conflict with the city's 2008 master plan and in fact supports the plan's vision to, quote, retain its Milltown soul, end quote. The board references the following master plan sections, goals, and objectives as outlined in the application. See section 4, page 12 to 13 here, including.
Again.
The most visible signs of the city's renaissance are the reclaimed mill buildings that are now home to small businesses, artisan studios and galleries, restaurants, social service agencies, and residences. Finding ways to retrofit, rehabilitate, and reuse its old mills for community building ventures is a key component of a sustainable future. Revitalization of the downtown and sustaining the current momentum of adaptive building reuse. Developing and maintaining an adequate, affordable housing stock as a means of attracting and retaining a diverse workforce. Approve tax and other financial incentives such as the tax increment financing for small, locally owned businesses.
Is there an odd character in there?
I think the font ended up a little different. I can adjust that.
Yeah, it's also missing a quote. Revitalization doesn't start with a quotes. The other ones all do.
Okay.
Okay. The planning board finds that the project contributes to and or supports many of the public benefits outlined in the 2002 Urban Rivers Plan, see page 2 here, which has been a guide for both the city and developers. The MassWorks funding leveraged the private developers' investment to upgrade public infrastructure in the vicinity and thus contributed directly to fulfilling the following goals established in that plan. Create an eastern gateway to the park that welcomes people to downtown Easthampton and Lower Mill Park, including streetscape and traffic calming improvements at the Ferry Street crossing and dedicated parking for bike trail users and other visitors. Promote reuse of the Ferry Street Mill complex, including restoring and reusing the historic complex and removing unviable or less significant buildings as necessary. Use space for parking and landscape improvements, and concentrate industrial uses at the rear of the mills while preserving the front sections for clean uses that benefit directly from water views. Reinforce the link between the new city neighborhood and Lower Mill Park and establish an attractive front along the Ferry Street complex. Install a public walk and green esplanade along the pond edge. 4, the project is not detrimental to A, the best interests of the public or the city. The planning board finds that overall redevelopment of the property is in the best interests of the city. Specifically, the renovation of buildings for commercial and residential use, along with associated parking and new utilities, are a benefit over the existing decadent conditions found under finding number 1. Additionally, as outlined in Exhibit blank, see paragraphs 1 and 2, page 500 here, the current site is nearly entirely covered by impervious buildings, paving, and debris piles, with all catch basins, drain manholes, and underground drain lines are discharging untreated to the canal and thence the Manhan River. The new stormwater management system installed as part of the project will capture and convey runoff to a proper set of sedimentation devices and provide water quality treatment prior to discharge, thus increasing the water quality of the Manhan River, which is an essential feature in Easthampton and the region.
Can you stop for a second?
Yeah. That sentence reads a little weird, right?
Well, the sentence, additionally, as outlined in Exhibit blank, at the end of that sentence, where you say are discharging untreated, you get rid of the word are.
Yeah,
you
I think that's right.
All catch basins, drain manholes, and under drain lines discharging untreated to the canal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
B, the best interests of public safety and convenience. The planning board finds that the project and its interconnected public infrastructure improvements are in the best interest of public safety and convenience. Specifically, the board acknowledged that the private development enabled the city to acquire funding for the following MassWorks public infrastructure project elements: improved vehicle movements due to roundabout, enhanced pedestrian access to Lower Mill Pond via the multi-use path, improved pedestrian safety with the upgraded crossing for Manhan Rail Trail, installation of rectangular rapid flashing beacons, upgraded crosswalks, and new PVTA bus shelter. The planning board also finds that the concerns from public safety officials in finding number 1 contribute to determining the project is in the best interest of public safety. The board recalled the testimony of former Fire Chief Moto during the 2018 special permit hearing as having buildings in, quote, such poor condition that the fire department will not enter the property, end quote, as extremely compelling to the importance of the project to increasing the public safety. 5, the project is consistent with the most suitable development of the city. The planning board finds that since at least 1997, there has been a clear pattern of development in the Mill, I think you need the Mill District there, Jeff, okay, including the consistent issuance of blanket special permits granted to mill owners one time. It is acknowledged that these flexible special permits have contributed to the vibrancy of the mills by eliminating the uncertainty, costs, and time around obtaining permits for each new tenant, and has contributed to creative new uses being able to occupy the spaces and create distinct community within each of the larger mill buildings. The planning board finds that the project is directly in line with the goals of the 2002 Urban Rivers Plan and the Master Plan as identified in finding number 3. The planning board also finds that this project further complements the goals around increasing the walkability of Easthampton because of the proximity of the mills to the bike path. This location contributes to the continuously expanding range of mixed uses, provides substantial additional new housing units, preserve historic structures, and increases the residential and small businesses to coexist. That seems to be missing something. Encourages, facilitates, something like that other than increases.
What about increases the opportunity for residential and small businesses to coexist? I think that works. Okay. That's what it's supposed to say.
Sounds good. 6, the project constitutes a public use and benefit. The planning board finds that the project constitutes a public use and benefit through the adoption of the city's first district improvement financing area around the project in July 2018. See page 3 to 27 here. Through the establishment of this district, the city is able to employ a tool to fund further enhancements to public infrastructure in this specific geographic area from increased tax revenue not otherwise available from the general fund. It was identified that the 121A revenue payments from the project will be used to pay the cost of the public infrastructure funded by the DIF over a period of approximately 10 years, thus allowing the city to complete and pay for public infrastructure directly from the revenue generated by the project, after which the revenue goes into the general fund. The planning board finds that the provision of 50 workforce housing units, see section 6A on page 14, and the first whereas clause on page 25 of the application here, is an additional public benefit of the project. The inclusion of these optional units will make a certain number of units available for people based on a sliding scale of incomes between 60% and 120% of the area mean income, AMI, thus opening up some of the units to residents who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford a market rate unit in the new development. Yep.
Sorry.
No.
Go if you can go back to I'm not really sure, Jeff, why you're putting this in there, but I guess I'm gonna go along with it regarding the housing, because we're not really 100% sure on how this workforce housing is gonna work, but there are no 60% scale. It's 80 to 120.
Do we want to put in some qualifying language just to make it clear that, the plan to provide 50 workforce housing units or something like that?
Well, I think I'm fine with making the change from 60 to 80, although I did listen to the meeting and Mr. Michon described it as a range from 60 to 120. So I'm happy to change it to 80. What's before all of us is a 6A agreement, which includes workforce housing units at the number of 50 as an amenity that, contributes to granting the tax relief. So I don't know if Mr. Michon wants to clarify the question about why it's in here. It's in here because it's part of the amenities listed in the 6A agreement.
I understand that, but there was, I don't know where you came up with 60%.
Right. So, we can change it to 80. That was my understanding from listening to the meeting last night. In the meeting on November 17th, it was described as a range of from 60 to 120. So I think it's fine to.
Well, that number is what it is, but I mean, Mike, are you saying that it is the 50 workforce housing units is part of the application, right? So that's part of what we're looking at here.
That's correct. That's still uncertain on how that's going to come to fruition, and that's what we're working on with the council here over the next couple of weeks. I'm in touch with DHCD as well as Mass Housing, and I think we're going to need to. It's okay you have it in here. I want to be more generic. That's all.
Okay. I think for our purposes, this is part of the application that we have to report on. And so I think we'll include it. If that's something that either at the city council level or somewhere else, it falls by the wayside, at least it's part of what we're talking about today.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just want to add the mass housing group lists the AMI as 61% to 120%. So maybe that's where the figure came up from? Mass housing?
Yeah, I think the workforce with the capital W is intended to imply the mass housing program. And I guess, as we're learning about it together, there may be different variations as for each project. So, it sounds like what Mr. Michon is saying is that, if this is to come to fruition, it would be starting at the 80%.
Okay.
From my understanding of the discussion would be through negotiations or discussions at Mass Housing. So it could go as low as 60, but I think in this case, the project would not go below 80. That was a summary, correct, Mr. Michon?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Brenda. All right, and 7, the method of relocation is feasible where applicable and housing is available for displaced occupants. The board finds that this provision is not applicable as there are no existing dwelling units within the subject project. So planning board members, any other comments or questions before we see if there's public statement?
I'd like to make just one comment, and it's really just kind of silly, but the way each of these 7 headers for the sections are sort of an indented thing, they look to me almost as if they're not headers for the section, and I think it'd be better to unindent them and maybe make them bold or somehow a more appropriate header.
That can be done.
Sounds good.
Word was giving me a hard time last night.
It's a small thing.
Chris?
I would say all of the links to here, if there's a way, I would say I'd recommend maybe if there's a way to reduce those number of links and only put links that are absolutely critical to support the discussion. If the discussion is also summarized in our narrative, maybe just say, Section 8 of the 2008 Master Plan, maybe you don't need a link unless it's absolutely necessary that we need it.
What about Jesse's idea of, I think it was his idea, forgive me if I'm wrong, but in the beginning, I think you were talking about a footnote section or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put little numbers there and then have a separate page for the links.
Exhibits.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to have exhibits so that you can read through the whole thing and it'll tell you the exhibit, but you can, and then Jeff, we can hyperlink to those exhibits, but as long as, if someone reads this like I've got a hard copy in front of me and it says, see here, I can't do anything with that. So I like it to at least be able to read like a real document, even if people aren't on a device.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm basically going to take out the links. I think it was useful for the first meeting that we had to so that I could literally click and try to move us through everything.
Yeah.
Almost all of the documents referenced are included in the application as an exhibit. So it's very easy to just convert it to a reference to the exhibit. I see Mr. Michon's hand. There were 2 documents that I added. So I just have to figure out how to incorporate those by reference to something, which the first one's the transmittal from the mayor.
Yep.
Which may or may not actually be that important, I think, as long as it's dated.
Right.
Whoever would want to find the actual transmittal, we could get that. So I think the only other, I think
the photographs, I think, are super important.
Yep, and the letters from that first permit hearing.
Right. So those, I mean, I guess for a point of clarity, this is not like a Trump kind of illustration of like holding a big stack of papers or anything, but the packet when it's printed, is a giant set of documents, but the building inspector's letter and the fire chief's letter and the photographs are all in the same exhibit. So I guess I'm just trying to seek some clarity that I would refer to those as whatever exhibit they're in the application materials, and that would be sufficient, unless you're asking me to draw out or pull out.
I think that makes perfect sense, Jeff. I think as long as people can be directed to it, I don't think that we need to help them find the, in a physical document.
No need for
Brenda?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, did we miss anything that can help bolster, the argument for this? I had a question for Mike. Are you thinking of installing like any solar panels anywhere or doing anything like that?
Every building will have solar panels on the roof.
So I think we should add that, the master plan, sustainability. I think that's really important.
We're also trying to, we're going to attempt to rework the existing hydro turbine that's in the hydro plant.
I was going to ask you about that because I remember that was sort of iffy when we first saw you. I'm wondering if you made any progress on that.
We haven't made too much progress because I've been a little bit tied up on other things, but that is definitely in the works.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think that
the more arguments, the better. I think that's really important. That. And I have another question for Mike and the board. Can we have can we do a site visit? Not because I think it has anything to do with this, but because I'm excited about this project and I'd love to see more. Is it safe?
Anytime, let me know.
You guys, are you interested in that? Do you want to take a closer look at the property?
Sure.
One thing that we were trying to do, and it didn't work for this fall, we were trying to do sort of a ribbon cutting for the reopening of Ferry Street and do a site visit, and because there's I think the city council members also would want a site visit as well.
Right.
I would just ask that, as we're going to roll into winter very quickly here. I think in the springtime, if that were sort of soon enough, I think that would be a great time to coordinate an actual site visit, because what we're hoping to do is showcase the public infrastructure project as being complete. And then we had discussions with Mr. Michon about showing the completion of building 1. And then I think, Mike, I'm just speaking out loud here, but I'm thinking out loud, but if you have if you're breaking ground on the next building, that could be an opportunity for us to, celebrate that. So I don't know if you guys want to coordinate individually, but I think we're talking about doing something, coordinated in a coordinated way, potentially in the spring.
I like that idea.
I don't so much. I don't think we have to try to force everything into one meeting to celebrate the opening. I think we would be happy to come to that as well. So I'd be for doing it sooner rather than later, but hey, anytime is great.
Well, it's also because we don't have to do it as a formal site visit, because we're going to actually wrap up our business with it. So it's certainly easy to coordinate one by one if people want to do that in the interim, Brenda.
Okay, great.
One more thing, excuse me, Jeff. So just to be consistent, because I think I mentioned this last time. Again, the provision of 50 workforce housing units, I think it says approximately.
Okay.
I think I'd like to be consistent with that in the 6A in agreement. I'm pretty sure it says approximately 50 workforce housing units. Maybe there's going to be 45, maybe there's going to be 55.
Yep. So I've added the word approximately back in there.
Thank you.
We talked really briefly, Jesse, again about process here. I know this is our second meeting. We have a tight timeline. I think it was like 45 days or something. And I know we have a joint hearing coming up. What are we doing exactly here? Are we submitting this for approval to that hearing, or are we just getting it this far? Then at the hearing, we'll take it further. What do we need to do to seal this from us?
Jeff.
I had two questions about where to put the hydroelectric and solar references, and I just have a question about that. But once we get through that and any other comments, then I'll fix the references to the exhibits. That's very easy to do, and the headings and the simple edits. I think what I'm hoping at the end of this is a vote, from the board that this is their report to send to the full council. And the timeline that I have established is next Thursday at noon is the deadline to get items in for the city council meeting on the 16th. So basically we're going to be I'm hoping to be able to, on behalf of the board, transmit this report to city council, which will be, a week before the deadline. So it's pretty good.
And then do we have another joint hearing? Is that right, Jeff, with city council, or is it go to city council alone then?
It's a little bit unclear in the statute what happens at this stage. As of right now, the joint public hearing that was begun on November 4th was continued to December 16th. I think just out of an abundance of caution, we just took the whole joint public hearing process and continued it. So if it's possible to get a quorum of the planning board to attend that, I think that would be like sort of the minimum we would achieve. I don't know that the planning board might have some way to introduce this, or if there's any questions about it, but it's pretty thorough. And I would imagine that the city council, what it looks like other communities do when they're satisfied with the planning board report is they vote to adopt it as part of their, recommendations to the mayor as to, in terms of what to do with the 121A agreement.
What about section 6 for the commentary about energy efficiency from solar and hydro?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I got it in 4A too.
Yeah.
A lot of places it could go.
5 has walkability. I was thinking 6 as well. I think in any of those.
In terms of the public, do you consider that an element of the public use and benefit, or?
I liked it under best interest of the public or the city.
Okay.
But I think it could go in any of them. I think as long as it's in here somewhere. I think that's a really good point, Brenda. And Jeff, I just put in addition construction of solar panels on each new building and the applicant's stated desire to rehabilitate the non-functioning hydroelectric system are further in the best interest of the public and the city. Like just
I think you're right. Under that 4B, under it, just in that list of bullets, it could be more bullets.
Yep. Okay, that's good. I
think as long as you reference that, I think that's great. And I think as long as you sort of say the stated desire, I know from previous statements that this may turn out to be impossible on the hydroelectric part. I wouldn't want to box Mike in on that one, but it's one of the coolest parts about this project, even though I don't think it necessarily means much to the bottom line, but it's pretty neat, and it would be a really cool thing to have back in Easthampton.
I'm still holding for the thing that he said would be, excuse me, I shouldn't refer to you in the third person, that Mike said would be perhaps at the very end of the project, but those two fountains.
The fountains in the lower mill pond.
That was amazing. That needs to happen.
That will happen as long as conservation gives me the go ahead.
Yeah. All right, Mike, was there anything else that you think that would be helpful for us to have in this report that we either didn't think or we missed or something like that?
Oh, I gotta congratulate all of you and Jeff. Did you put this together, Jeff, or did you all chime in on this? Give me the lowdown here.
Jeff's hard work.
It was Jeff based on our You saw the only conversation, Mike. We had that last hearing where we had a rambling conversation and threw stuff against a wall, and Jeff turned it into this masterpiece.
Agreed.
Jeff, can I hire you as a PR and marketing person for One Industrial Lofts?
The truth be told is I did it last night after the city council meeting on this. So it was very, there's so many things going on all at once that I'm struggling to keep pace with all of it. But the process has been really good where we present the materials and the board discusses it, and it gives me the clarity to go and write something, and then we present it back. And that's been really helpful as far as I can tell, and the board appreciates it because it's not something where someone's making it up and then the board never sees it and never talked about it. So I'm confident with the way that we're structuring that in terms of transparency.
So do we vote to present this at our public hearing, or we just say we're good and present it at the public hearing?
I think we vote to submit this report. I think the public, because that's our sort of statutory obligation, is to submit a report to the city council. So I think we would vote to approve and submit this report. I don't see, Jeff, when you share screen, I can't quite tell if there's anyone else here. It looks like
I'm going to stop.
Everyone else left, but if anybody is from the public and wants to chime in, questions, comments, thoughts, unmute yourself.
I don't see anyone.
I don't either, so I think we're okay.
I motion to approve this document with the suggested changes that we gave for Jeff.
I'll second that.
All right, so motion to approve this report as amended. Brenda.
Yes.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. That was a relatively painless process, Jeff. This went actually way smoother than I thought it was going to last month.
You read so well, Jesse.
You know what? I've been practicing in front of a mirror for the last 48 hours just to get it down. But, well, now that we know that Jeff crammed and did it last night, like 3 hours ago, it's hard for me to say that. All right. Excellent, Mike. So I guess we'll probably see you at the joint city council public hearing, but it looks like our work on this is done. So best of luck, and hopefully it keeps going.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
You too. Jeff, anything administratively we need to get to?
No, just a reminder that the next meeting, you have a no meeting on December 8th. The next meeting will be December 15th. And just, I'm sure everyone may have seen the email, but 102 Northampton Street got continued to 6 o'clock. And then there was another zoning amendment that went through ordinance and was recommended to start the process. So that's to convene a joint public hearing with planning and ordinance. And so I missed my own note on the timeline. So I had to publish the legal ad and call the hearing for December 15th. So the members of the ordinance committee are available to come sort of to your meeting and hold the joint meeting. So that's advertised at 6:30. That's to change the opening hours of operation for a cannabis establishment from 10 a.m. to 8. And then finally, the Duncan proposal got continued to 7. So that's what the December 15th meeting looks like. And then I think the next meeting after that would be January 5th. And then I think we're in a pretty good shape to then just maintain the more normal 2 meetings.
What does that mean? I read that in your note that we could go back to normal schedule. And my first thought was, yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. But does that mean that you don't have a lot in the docket?
It's not necessarily the quantity in the docket. It's just that we'll have them paced out more properly now. Curtis is bringing in new there's a full docket already for January 6th. So as we get more projects, they'll go in January and February. But so it's not the lack of work. It's just that we have a little bit more time to spread them out now. So
improving. I motion to adjourn.
Harry, are you seconding or you have a comment?
No, I want to, could I comment on that cannabis thing? Is that, can I do that?
The proposed bylaw that we already talked about or the one that we're going to talk about?
Probably the one we're going to talk about.
Let's save that for when it's on the agenda. Write down all your thoughts that you're having right now, and we'll make sure we bring them up when we talk on the 15th. Because it's not on our agenda tonight.
All right.
I'll second James' motion to adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn. Brenda.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Another great night, folks. See you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate
Good job,
it.
Jeff. That was great. Bye.
Thank you. No, thank you all very much.